Good evening, everyone. I'm Riley King, and welcome to the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. Let's begin. First up, high schoolers recognized for overcoming difficulties, making difference. Football player with autism, Laconia Teens Waterboy honored with award. Let's take a listen to the video from WMUR, Ray Brewer.
Pets are like family. That's why Bob's from Skechers will make a donation to the Petco Foundation with every pair sold. Bob's has already saved over 240,000 pets. And now teamed with the Petco Foundation, we strive to save even more. Bob's from Skechers and the Petco Foundation.
This is the play last year, Speed 38, that will live on in Milford sports history, as Jacob Wilson, who has autism, scored a touchdown. Monday, he was one of two recipients of the NHIAA Walter A. Smith Award, the award recognizing individuals who have overcome special circumstance and contributed to interscholastic athletics. For Jacob, sports are an integral part of his life.
It's about my whole life and my life. And everyone's life.
His coach, who called that play, says Jacob's spirit is infectious.
His charisma, it fills the entire school. When you've ever seen him score a basket in a unified basketball game, and he always turns to face the crowd, he puts his hands up, the place goes wild.
And Jacob's dad says sports have drawn Jacob out of his shell.
To be able to participate in these sports and be able to have the opportunities has really made him become a much more extroverted person.
John Marston from Laconia High School was the other recipient. While not scoring a touchdown, Marston is involved with football, doing duty as the water boy. The athletic director for Laconia says Marston will do anything for anyone, but he's also a trailblazer.
It's really opened up the clarity to our student body with unified sports, and it's really become one of our most popular offerings at the school.
Both Sean and Jacob will be leaving high school after this year, but their coaches say that their spirit will live on in their respective schools forever. In Concord, Ray Brewer, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Former NASCAR modified tour driver killed in New England plane crash. Let's take a listen to the video from WMUR News 9.
We have some sad news out of the NASCAR world for you this morning. Racing legend Mike Stefanik died in a single-seat plane crash on Sunday. Stefanik was a 9-time series champion and the winningest driver in history of the Whelen Modified Tour. He won 8 times at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway and holds the record for the most tour wins overall with 74. His career spanned nearly 30 years. Mike Stefanik was 61 years old.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Broken axle caused red line train derailment. Derailment occurred on June 11th. Let's take a listen to that video from WCVB Boston.
Your feet carry the weight of your entire body, so it's important to keep them healthy. I'm Dr. Tan Din, a podiatrist at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center. Learn 5 tips for good foot health, as well as how to prevent foot injuries at wcvb.com/health.
As you can see in this video, this is where the train derailed when it happened. Take a look. Okay, and there you go on that video. A 27-year-old axle on a red line car fractured and caused a June 11 derailment, MBTA officials announced Monday, offering a clear picture of the problem that has led to months of delays and headaches on train lines that transport hundreds and thousands of commuters. The train reached that condition as a result of gaps in inspection schedule and missed warning signs, investigators found. While the axle damage sometimes occurs on heavily used vehicles, the train in question was a matter of weeks away from a semi-annual inspection that would have detected it. Crews performing inspections roughly every 3 months also had not been checking the ground ring, a related part that helps keep the train electronically grounded, that was damaged and caused the axle to become fragile. MBTA General Manager said the Transit Authority has no record of any prior incidents with the ground ring. Moving forward, the MBTA will work to prevent those problems from arising again. Inspections will now be conducted annually instead of every 2 years, and regular inspections will include close examination of the ground ring assembly or for any damage that could emanate out to the axle or other parts. Firefighter killed, others injured in Farmington explosion, identified by officials. Let's take a listen to the video from WMTW News 8 Maine.
Doctors, Matatas, Ismail, David.
Ground zero from Hurricane Michael.
You can see just home after home.
David, fix the matrix.
This was your view.
My favorite view.
Thank you very much.
Evidence response team is now here on this scene going through all this, and the evidence is everywhere, strewn all across this neighborhood. In fact, here I am, almost 2 streets away from where the blast actually happened, and there is insulation all over this area as well. The house I'm standing next to had its windows blown out by the blast, just showing you the force of the explosion that happened this morning. As we're getting the detail that Captain Michael Bell was killed and several other firefighters injured. We have more on their current statuses to come. Right now, they'll want to bring in News 8's Jim Keithley, who has been here on the scene all day. And Jim, words, pictures, despite, the drone, they don't do it justice. You have to be here to see the devastation that this blast caused.
You do, and I don't know if Suze can zoom in, but there's a tree. And in that tree, dangling pieces of metal, the insulation we were talking about. I mean, that just goes to show this stuff went everywhere when that blast happened. Shortly after 8 o'clock this morning, employees of Leap Inc., it's an office building right here on Farmington Falls Road, which is also Route 2, they smelled gas. They got out of that building. They called 911 immediately. When firefighters arrived, they went right into that building, and as soon as they did, that's when the building blew up. Now, again, the captain of the fire department, 68-year-old Michael Bell, was killed on the scene. He's a 30-year veteran. 4 other firefighters, including the fire chief, which is Michael Bell's brother, Terry Bell, was injured, a maintenance manager who was in the building at the time, and an ambulance employee, we're told. All 3 of the state's life flight helicopters zoomed to Farmington this morning to airlift those injured people to area hospitals. I'll have more on that in a moment. But we did speak with the Farmington police chief, and he says you cannot train for something like this.
We train, but I don't know that we've ever trained for something that we saw this morning. And we certainly don't, expect to lose somebody that we've worked with for years and a loved one and a member of our family.
And Governor Janet Mills arrived on the scene this afternoon. She got a tour for herself, complete utter devastation. She said she gave her condolences to those that were injured and the fallen firefighter, vowing to find out what exactly happened here, because she says she doesn't want this to happen to another community. So the fire marshal's office, and they have a team, we're told about half a dozen investigators are here. The ATF is here, which is standard procedure. They're going to go through this rubble. They're going to try to pinpoint the source of this explosion, and then from there we'll find out, hopefully, what caused this. But again, this is not an anomaly. This has happened, several times here in Maine and across New England, as you know, Steve.
Yeah, and Jim, it's remarkable to see when you look out here the Farmington fire trucks that were there at the building to respond to the initial calls of that gas smell. They were then there when that blast happened. All right, Jim, thank you. Jim, also.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Okay, and let's take a look at that U.S. stock market and see how U.S. stock market closed for this Monday evening. And here's a look at that U.S. stock market for all of you. Dow falls. Snap 8-day winning streak on fears spiking oil will slow the global economy. Stocks fell on Monday amid fears that surge in oil prices following the attack of Saudi Arabia could slow down global economy growth. Purdue Pharma files for bankruptcy. Let's take a listen to the video from ABC News.
New developments involving Purdue Pharma, the company that made billions selling the prescription painkiller OxyContin, has now filed for bankruptcy. This comes, of course, just days after reaching a tentative settlement with many of the state and local governments suing it over the toll of opioids. That settlement expected to be worth billions, but this legal battle is far from over. About half of the states suing have not signed on to that settlement, Robin.
Like you said, far from over. Okay, Cecilia.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Iran fired Kursk missiles at Saudi oil facility. Let's take a listen to the video from ABC News.
We begin, though, with the escalating tensions in the Persian Gulf after that massive attack that crippled key oil facilities in Saudi Arabia. The Trump administration is blaming Iran for the attack. That regime denies the claim, and oil prices soared overnight after President Trump warned the U.S. is locked and loaded for potential retaliation. Our chief global affairs anchor, Martha Radis, is tracking all the latest from Washington. Good morning, Martha.
Good morning, George. This is one of the most serious foreign policy challenges the president has faced, with global consequences, a spike in oil prices, and the possibility of a major military conflict with Iran. This morning, with some of the world's largest oil processing facilities in Saudi Arabia still smoldering, President Trump threatening military action in retaliation, tweeting, "We are locked and loaded depending on verification." But a senior administration official tells ABC News that the highly coordinated attack was launched from Iranian soil. Nearly a dozen cruise missiles and at least 20 drones packed with explosives pounding multiple targets at the facilities, the massive blaze lighting up the skies, the smoke and fire visible from space.
If the Iranians directly attack the Saudis, it's a major escalation and the first time we have seen a direct attack by the Iranians on Saudi territory.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo pointing the finger at Iran as well in a tweet calling on all nations to publicly and unequivocally condemn Iran's attacks, which Iran flatly denies. The Iranian foreign minister mocking Pompeo, saying the U.S., having failed at max pressure, now turning to max deceit. Over the summer, Iran was accused of attacking oil tankers in the Persian Gulf and shooting down a highly sophisticated and costly U.S. drone. After threats of military action, President Trump then called off retaliatory strikes, but this time could be different.
This is as close as the U.S. has come to a direct confrontation with Iran since this standoff began.
An official telling ABC News it may take 6 months to repair, and oil, said the official, predicted to go up $20 a barrel. President Trump is trying to reassure Americans, tweeting plenty of oil, but promising to tap into the strategic oil reserves if necessary. This while the administration is trying to figure out how to respond to this brazen attack. George?
Martha Raddatz, thanks very much. Hi, everyone.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And that did it for this evening edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all have a great rest of your Monday evening, and I'll see you back here tomorrow for another newscast. Good night and bye.